Hey, welcome everyone to tonight's beginner class. I found for my own practice that if we're really aware of the foundation that the handstand is built on, meaning the hands, the elbows, the shoulders, all the way to the hip, we built a sustainable practice in our handstand that it is always going to be the same. No, so the legs might differ no matter what kind of shape we do, but the foundation will always stay the same. So I want to introduce you to all these single pieces and we go through them step by step. And we will start with the hands actually. A lot of people refer to the hands and hand balancing in different ways. The way I want you to start today is just making a few circles on top of your wrists and just feel how your hands and your wrists connect to the floor. Can also find different angles and see how that feels. Change the circles, just be a bit fluid. I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see better. Um, Now we just want to shift the shoulders forward and back. And you'll feel that there is a point, especially when the shoulders are going further than the fingertips, that it feels quite uncomfortable in the heel of the hand that gets a big stretch. And when I'm pushing my shoulders back, my fingers are quite light and I only feel weight in the heel of my hand. So ideally in our handstand, we want to find that center of the hand where the shoulders kind of root down in the middle of the hand. So if you move the shoulders more back, you'll feel more weight in the back. If you move it too much to the front, you'll feel too much pressure and too much stretch in the back. So see if you can find that center of your hand. And then come closer. Another key element is, and you kind of have to see for yourself what works best. You want to either bring the pointer finger forward or the middle finger forward. That depends a bit on the anatomy of our hands and elbows and shoulders, what feels best. So see, and you can always also change this. The more you practice, you might feel you need different things. Ideally, our wrists are in one line with our shoulders. So this would be wider than our shoulders. This would be more narrow. And when you find that comfortable position for your wrists, let's just try to go into a plank pose. And in your plank pose, try to stay connected to the center of your hand as you walk forward towards your hands. Keep that connection in the middle of your palm as you walk back. One more time. Nice. You can bring the knees back down. Let's give a little counter stretch for the wrists. Get the back of the hands next to the knees. You can just wiggle your fingers or try to make a fist and open the hands again. Especially if you're not used to doing a lot of handstands, you might feel that this 1 hour is intense. So always take breaks as needed. Shake out your wrists at any point. I want to talk about two more things in the wrists. So we often talk about the inner and outer circle of the hand. The inner circle is this part, the inside part of the palm. The outer circle is also connecting the fingertips and the whole hand. And ideally in our handstand, we want to most importantly, stay connected to that inner circle. But sometimes when we balance, we might also use that outer circle to bring us back into the center. So see if when you fall a bit forward, you push a bit in the fingers, you can bring it back into the center. When you're a bit back and you push into the heels, you can also try to connect the whole palm down on the ground. Now that's a lot of information, but if you want to think about your fingers as your feet and you're balancing on your feet the whole day as you walk, we want to try to use the same principles, like referring to where the center is in the palm to where the rest of our body is on top of that. We'll go shortly to the elbows. So I would say come on the fingertips. It's a little lighter to feel. And you want to rotate the elbows out and in. And you don't have to give a lot of weight. So I'm quite far back with my hips to kind of create a little windshield wiper with my elbows in and out. So depending also on the shape of your elbow, maybe you're able to like hyperextend the elbows. But with a lot of body weight, that can get quite dangerous. So what we want to have for our elbows is the inside of the elbow wants to face each other. So if you're imagining you have like a rubber band around the elbows, to create kind of like a tension, you should feel your triceps also activating. If I push my elbows forward, I feel a lot of pressure on the inside of my wrists, and also a part of my hand wants to lift off. So see if the elbow inside looks at each other, if you also feel the inside of the hand connecting more to the ground. Nice. And just shake it out for a moment. We will go a little higher to the shoulders and whatever sitting position is easy for you. When you bring your hands in one line with the shoulders, if we think about a protraction is really pushing the shoulders out and the upper spine rounded. And a retraction is the shoulder blades kind of pull down and back. Now we'll do a little experiment. When we push a lot, and the protraction of the shoulders, and we lift the arms up, my shoulders are not going very far. I see the same for you. Now let's try the same with a retraction. See if you can open the shoulders all the way. And on the highest point, just think of like hanging on something. So with the retraction of the shoulder, you want to think of extending. But first, you want to go all the way close to the ears and then create the extension more from underneath the shoulder. Try it one more time. It feels, I'm going to show it from the front too. You want to rotate the shoulders down and back. So the hands will face a bit out in an external rotation. And then we lift the arms up. On the highest point, we want to just reach for the ceiling. Nice. Your neck should be still able to move. You're pushing so much and closing a lot, your neck is going to be stuck. Nice. Shake it out. We'll try the same in a plank position. And it's going to feel a little bit more like in your handstand. So find your comfortable shoulder width position with your hands. Let the inside of the elbow face one another, and then try to rotate the shoulder blades down and back. And with that wrap in your shoulder and the connection your hands and elbow, you want to walk out into a plank. Now, in your plank, you can think of pulling the heel of the hand and the toes towards one another. And I feel immediately my core starting to shake. And don't have to do more than 10 seconds. Nice. So don't worry if you don't get all the details today. It's quite complex. Handstand is like a full body movement. And I just want to explain these things to you, and we'll work with some exercises later. And it might take years, at least it took me years to understand all the puzzle pieces that belong to each other. And you can find your seated position again. Create the wrap in the shoulders, the arms overhead. Now we want to focus on the neck and the gaze. Often I see that we bring the head really far back and it automatically arches my spine. I want to think more of like looking out of my eyes to my thumbs, but not actually moving my head so much. And I want you to try the same in a forward fold. If you need to bend the legs, that's totally fine. Find your handstand position with the shoulders rotating down and back. And out of your eyes, you look to your thumb line. So it's not out here, it's not back here. It's something in between where your neck still feels long and not crunched up, but long enough also that you can see the floor. Let me check for a sec. That looks really good. Nice. Take a little break so you can come watch the next one. So you can do this in any leg shape. I would say the easiest for now is if you have the legs slightly separated to feel this part. When we lift the arms overhead, my lumbar spine is lifted away from the floor. Some people's aren't, so maybe this exercise feels very easy for you if that's the case. But with the arms overhead, we're trying to breathe our back ribs into the floor to just have that little integration of the ribs. And it doesn't have to be so much that your whole body is lifting and the shoulders is closing. It's keeping the length in the body and just breathing here that you narrow the space to the floor. So maybe because you have that engagement, your arms hover a bit above the floor, but it shouldn't feel so much that it feels like almost like a sit-up crunch. It's a lot less and more tiny than we think. See if you can move the breath into the back of the body. Nice. Looks good.
Are we breathing like up here or somewhere here?
We're trying to breathe into the back of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens mostly in our daily life is that we're breathing in the front, but in
Mm-hmm.
handstands, we want to learn to breathe into this part so that the lungs can expand in the back to have the rib integration and the deep core. If we're going out here, you'll end up in an arched position, and that's going to make it really hard to balance. It might happen when you learn handstands and you try the first times. You can't focus on all these details that I'm explaining right now. Um, but maybe find a seated position. Put one hand in the back of your lungs and ribs. One arm is up, and try to just breathe into the back of the body without moving your spine. See if you can really feel the breath touching your hand. This is also very similar to the breath we use in handstands, because if we would breathe a lot in the front, we would start to lose our ribs and then the whole balance is going to get harder. Nice. So you can do this seated, laying down, sitting. You can even do it when you're walking the streets. No one will be able to see it. It's very beneficial for your lungs as well to expand in the back and will help your vertebrae move a lot. Okay, we'll do a drill that probably most of you saw already. Let's see, I'll just fit enough in this room. Bring the hands just slightly upward so you have a little bit more space. So it's like half a palm up. Then I'm gonna start with exactly the same thing in the elbow and the shoulders. And then I'm gonna try to lengthen my navel off the floor. So I'm creating this tiny little bit of space here. I don't have to push so much that I'm rounding my upper back and lifting like this. It feels more like stretching out and just lifting the belly button off the floor. And then With lifting the belly button, you should also be able to move the breath into the back of the body again. I like to think of handstands more as like a stretched out position that feels like you're hanging on a pull-up bar instead of feeling so tight and engaged that you can't move anymore and it just feels like everything is so locked up. Because if we're in that locked up position, it's also very hard for our body to balance, right? So let's try one time standing on our feet, how our whole body always adjusts the balance. You can do it with the arms to the side. Maybe close your eyes to really tap into what you're feeling. When your whole body moves forward, your feet will feel more pressure in the front. And I would advise you for this exercise for handstands to use kind of the pulling of the navel back to bring yourself back into balance. And same, when you fall a bit to the back, you want to lead with the belly button more to the front to bring everything back to the front. So your feet will help you to bring it back to the middle, but you also need to do something with the whole body to come back. Otherwise, if you just push in the feet, like at some point you'll get a cramp in your calf, and also the same in the back. If I'm not moving with my belly button on top, I'll just fall to the back and I have to make a step. Before we start with handstands, I want to do a few exercises to prepare the falling. Because I think if we know how to fall, then that's the best way to train, actually. So we'll start with setting our feet up close to the wall, the hands a little bit closer than like in a normal tabletop. I just want you to do maybe one or two steps off the wall and step sideways down. And I would like you to try to do it in both directions. So if I'm doing it to the other side, I'm going to step as high as I feel comfortable. Can be down here, can be higher, but I want to step one foot at a time down into like a little monkey cartwheel to the side. Make sure you don't have furniture around that might be dangerous to kick. Nice. And if you already feel quite good, you can also do a little momentum. Keep the feet right here. I can kind of do a little push off the wall, only if it feels comfortable, to um, pretend that I'm actually falling from a handstand, only if it feels good. You're trying, like on your feet, if someone would shove you from the back, you would make a step to take the energy out. We're also trying to do that on our hands. I'm gonna put the camera on my hands. So if the momentum comes, it's nice if you actually make a step with your hand to protect your shoulder from kind of twisting. See if you want to try that one more time. Just make a little step and take the weight out. Nice, that looks good. Nice. We'll use the wall for the exercises we do, but always know that this is your exit strategy. Um, and you want to come down before it's so late that you can't make that step anymore. So always save like 20% of energy to come down safely. Okay, we'll do the same exercise that we started with, but just try to go a little higher. And this might be more challenging just because you might meet some fear. So as I'm not there as a spotter, just listen to your own body. How high do you want to go? So I would say take one foot a little higher than the hips. Try to put the other foot a bit higher. You can also lean both feet in the wall And I want you to also come down the same way you came up. If you're quite familiar with this exercise, you could make it more challenging by being a lot closer to the wall. If it feels very terrifying, and for some people it does when they're learning, maybe going a little further gives them a little bit more space, or just having one foot down and just doing a little tap up and down. See where you are today in your practice and try it with both legs. Take a moment to be upside down and find your breath. Nice. Very good. Nice. Yeah. I know that facing with the belly to the wall feels a bit more terrifying, but what is nice about this exercise is that you don't need to already be able to kick up. It's a very good strength building exercise for your shoulders, and you can just learn to go one step at a time and also improve the way down. We'll do a little exercise on the floor before we'll bring it back on our hands. I often talk um, about a relaxed front of the leg. And the reason is if the leg is too engaged, if I'm pulling a lot, I'm actually pulling on my lower back, and it's a lot harder to feel our core. So we want to keep the front of the quad relaxed so the belly button feels like it's kind of falling into the back of my spine. And just thinking of relaxing this leg and letting it be heavy brings my ribs enough down to the ground. If I'm trying to pull, either my whole body rounds up, or maybe if my leg is too far away, it also brings me into an arch position. So see if you can find, maybe you need to shake the leg, bring it in, and let the navel fall into the spine. Try it on both sides. It's a bit harder to feel here as we're not upside down and we don't feel the gravity in our body. Will make more sense in a second. Try one more on the ground. So you can, let's see how I have enough space, maybe like this. When you're going down with your leg, right? Shifting the hips back. There's a moment either you hold a lot of tension in the front, or you can see it better from the side. I'll bend this leg, but yours can be straightened, where the hips kind of go back. And if the front of the leg is too engaged, my hips can't go back and I can't put my belly on my leg. And same in a child's pose. If my front of my leg is relaxed, I can just place my belly on my thigh. If I'm engaging a lot here, I couldn't do this. I would take away that space. Okay, we will try this on our hands. I will show both ways. Just, I know that some people are not so comfortable belly to wall, but I want to show the belly to wall first. It's the same setup that we had in the previous one. Bring your hands slightly closer than your tabletop. You'll bring one leg straight up. You feel your shoulders over your wrists, and then you just relax the front leg. And you can totally just stay here. Or if you want to play with balance, you can tap the heel to the glute and bring it back. Always save enough energy to come back down. if it feels safer to go with the back to the wall, be quite close to the wall. I would say one palm distance, so it doesn't feel so hard to get off the wall. And then you can kick up. One leg is on the wall. The lower leg is going to bend and relax fully. And then I can either just stay here and feel that relaxed front leg, but often my back foot automatically floated off the floor because the front of the hip is relaxed and the body can be in balance like this. So I give you a few moments to try, see what feels good. Find the top leg that's straight. That's going to help you in your handstand line. Yes, nice. If your top leg is back enough, especially if you're belly to wall, your leg that's on the wall wants to be like in a handstand. So see if you can create that lightness in the leg that's bent. I would always try it on both sides just because our bodies like to be even. Nice. Yes, really good. Take it slow. Really trust your body and trust its ability to balance. Now it's more scary upside down. Beautiful, everyone. If your body is in balance, it feels actually really light. And that's maybe the confusing, the confusing part, because we think handstands are really hard. They're hard. It's a lot of pieces coming together, but our bodies are able to balance, and it shouldn't feel so hard that you're fighting the whole time. Maybe try a couple more times on each leg. Yeah, the top leg is straight, and uh, Ineke, other leg. So the top leg wants to be away from the wall and the bent leg. You can start in an L shape and then bend, but you made that exercise harder for yourself. Nice. Yeah, really nice. Really good. I also find it helpful to feel that top leg. Um, in the back. So to mimic that in a standing position, if we're standing in the exact same shape with one leg bent, I actually feel the back of my leg quite active. And I feel the same in a handstand that I want to feel the connection to the back of the body. If I'm kind of not in balance, here I would feel a lot of pressure on the front leg. And if I'm back here, I would feel it more in my lower back. But if I'm really in balance on top of my leg, quite straight, I just feel the middle of my foot and a slight engagement in the back of my leg. Always try to find exercises like on the ground and in standing that are the same in your handstand. Okay. Um, let's see. I want to do one exercise from like a chair or a couch. If this is scary for you, you could also have a chair next to the wall. I'm going to show that one to just have spotting on both sides. So if you want the wall as a spotter, you could lift one leg up so you know the wall is behind. And then you're trying to give a little hop into the position we had. And you want to be able to come back. Maybe after one rep, you take a break to not hit yourself on the chair. If it feels good to do it without the wall, show it a little closer so you see a little better what happens in my belly. My one leg is up, and I'm really just thinking of bringing the heel to the glute. But my body is already in balance here. If I'm here, it's really heavy. I couldn't get off. So I'm bringing my hips over my shoulders. The top leg is reaching for the ceiling, and then lifting this leg up. Um, Happens because the rest of my body is already aligned and on top. If you have a higher table, like Ineke, for example, it's a bit easier because your hips are already quite high. From the chair, you might have to do a little hop because the hips are a bit lower. Nice. Yeah. Really get a feeling for how your back body is in alignment. Yes, nice, Helena. That was really good. Nice. Get a feeling for where the hip is on top of the shoulder. It feels further back than we like. Yeah, use the hip. Use the hip. Let the back leg and the hip get you there. Try one on each leg. This is quite hard exercise, so I don't want you to get too tired with this one. But I'm a big fan of going slow into the position and really feeling where we are in space. Nice. Very good tries. This is your first time trying it. Be patient with yourself. It takes some time to build trust with this exercise. Nice. So, what I see the most, and I'm just going to show it to you, you don't have to repeat it, um, is that why it's hard that, or you don't get all the way up is often we think this is our straight handstand line. So we have to shift everything so far back. And then here, my foot is actually light because I brought my top leg and my hip into the correct position. So I'm hanging out here. I feel like I have no chance to get off this chair. And that's easier said than done because we have to kind of lean a bit into the unknown. That's why it's nice to have a setup where you have a wall and a chair, even though it's limiting. So you have to already trust your ability to come safely up and down. But the back leg kind of leans over and brings your lower leg into the balance point. Oh, just something I wanted to share. I want to go a bit to kicking up. To add a little bit of momentum. For the kick up position, what I see the most when I'm teaching is that we either start too far back with the shoulders. Here, my shoulders are not on top of my wrists. Oh, we're too far forward and our body is terrified. Now we want to find that middle of the hand again. And if you're starting in your forward fold, you don't want to be in a position where you're fully pushed out yet. I have no chance to kick up here. So I want to like have my weight on top of my shoulders, but kind of sinking in instead of fully pushing out. And then depending on your practice, and you can also do these a little bit closer to the wall to have that extra spotter. What I want you to play with right now is looking in between your thumb line and just doing some hops and switching the legs. Can be also down here. What I want you to try is as you inhale, you lift your leg, and as you exhale, you try to kick. Exhalation will also help your rounding of the spine. I don't care if you get all the way up. I just care that you start with the shoulders on top of the wrists and finding your breath. Very good correction, Eva. Yes, nice. Focus on that foundation. Take it slow. Nice, Ineke. Yes. And take a few tries. And if you touch the wall, don't freak out. Just take a breath and try to find your calm way down. Nice. You want to get a feeling for your hips being on top of your shoulders. Nice, Helena. Really good. I see everyone correcting the starting position really nicely. That's already a win for me. To just have you know a good starting position and take that in your practice. Nice, Yelena. Keeps getting better. Really good. Yes, Ineke. And if you have a moment of balance, just enjoy it. Try not to freak out. Try to breathe. The breath will help your nervous system also to relax. I know it's very tempting to hold your breath and like freeze, but your body can't feel balance anymore. If we're freezing up, it's really hard for our bodies to know where they are and to feel safe. Nice. I like the smoothness of the jump. Very good. Nice. Yeah, feel free to shake your body out and take a couple moments in between. I know this is very intensive. You don't do a lot of handstands every day. Nice. Yes, Yelena. Super nice. Looks really good, Eva. Nice. Wow, so much improvement in just 30 minutes. Really nice. Let's give ourselves a little. Yeah, do you have a question? Go ahead.
It's more a comment that with my left leg, it's so much harder to kick up
Yeah.
than with my.
From my feeling here, like, I mean, we always say we have a good or a bad side, but from the outside, it doesn't look so different. And it's more the story in our head that we create. And that we are like, before we start, we already, oh no, now it's the bad side. What works in my own training the best is if I constantly switch between the sides. So not like I do, three kick ups from the right and they all work, and then I go to my bad side and it feels frustrating. So it feels nicer to just mix them all the time. Then you don't get so attached to what's your good or what's your bad side. And um, let's do a little shoulder stretch and we'll do one more thing for our kick up. So the hands can be forward and you just sink the hips back. I want you to try to not arch in your spine. I want you to have a really nice elongated feeling from the fingertips to the hips. The head and neck can be fully relaxed. Take 5 deep breaths into the back of the ribs. And come back into a tabletop. Get one leg to the front. So what all of you did very good. At least I didn't see anyone twisting open in the hip, right? That the hip is uneven. But what you can help your core with is kind of creating that feeling that the leg hikes up into the hip. This is you want to kind of slide the heel towards you, and you'll feel how this automatically will bring the core into the back of the body. Let's try the same on the other side as well. Find your legs being on train tracks and pulling the leg into the hip socket. You should also feel with that engagement that the hips usually, if the hips, like here, they are open, right? If I do that activation, they are in a very neutral position. We'll try it not in a handstand, just keeping that activation. One leg is up. If it's too much for your flexibility, you can bend it. As you do a little hop forward, show it from the side. I don't have so much room to do a few, but you lean a little bit forward and you do that same suction of the hip into the hip socket to like do a little float forward. And then after two or three, you change to the other leg. Just feel the lower leg pulling into the hip. Nice. Really nice. And all your hips are almost in a handstand already. I know it doesn't feel that way, but the hips stack on top of the shoulders like this a lot easier. After you've done your couple repetitions in your forward fold, let's try it standing as well. You can take your hands on the hips, lift one leg up, doesn't matter how high. And now I want you to just feel that leg pulling into the hip. By doing that, already I feel my core, everything is engaged. I don't have to do much. Here, I can still balance on my feet because I'm doing it for my whole life. But in handstand, this adduction will feel a lot easier to balance. And then try the same on the other side. Lift it to a height where it feels okay, and just pull the leg into the hip and see how it automatically brings your hips slightly behind the shoulders. And that's what we want. Okay. Now we'll try the same in handstands. And we'll go back belly to wall. Again, start in your tabletop, slightly closer with the hands underneath the shoulders, so it's easier to get off. If you're further away, it's going to be much harder to get off the wall. So take it one more step in than your normal tabletop. And you walk up the wall. One leg is going to be straight. That lower leg can also be straight. And then all you want to do here is just pulling the leg into the hip, and you should feel your balance. I'm not pushing myself off the wall, then I would have to come down. I'm just pulling the leg in, that's all. If this feels too scary without the wall behind, you could come back to the same setup with your table and the wall, having your leg up here, just pulling the leg in and feeling how this leg floats up by using the pulling into the hip socket. Feels a bit like sliding the leg towards the body, and that will help you to find your handstand. Try it on both legs to just work them equally. This will also align your hip very parallel. Yes, nice. Even if it's just a second. Try to enjoy that second. Rather do one repetition, take a couple breaths, come down, and observe what you felt, and then try again. It's a lot of information and a lot of input, but you have your exit. If it doesn't feel good, you can just come down to the side like we did in the beginning. Nice. It's not about staying forever, it's about doing the right thing and feeling comfortable in your body when you balance. Let's try at least one more on each side. Sorry, I lost you for a second. My internet was broken. I just switched to my phone. So, um, yes, keep going one more time on each leg that I can see you. You all were frozen. So nice. I would always do less repetitions, doing the right thing, than doing 100, not knowing what you're doing. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to build strength progressively. Yes, and enjoy that little moment of floating. Really nice. Okay, let's do a little stretch. I really like to do that stretch for my shoulders. The fingers are pointing towards the hips. You rotate the shoulders back. Maybe it feels okay to go towards straight elbows. I usually keep them bent, but you can wiggle your hips forward to feel the stretch in the front of the pack. If you roll your shoulders forward, you will not feel it. So you want to keep the collarbones lifted. The head can relax. Breathe into the front of the shoulders. And then lay on the belly. You can do this with the arms straight or bent. Go to the pec stretch on one side. You can rest the head, take a few deep breaths. Bring it back to center and roll over to the other side. Bring back, we roll onto our back. One leg is lifted and you grab however you can grab, might be closer to the knee, might be higher up. I want you to focus on the same thing that we worked on, that the hip kind of goes, or the leg goes into the hip and the belly button is relaxed. And see if you can breathe into the back of the ribs. And then without cramping anything, see if you can keep that without holding on to the leg. I feel like here too, if we're pulling a lot, it feels very heavy. But if we invited our leg to be in the position and keeping the navel into the spine, my leg wants to be in the exact same place. You can bring it down. And we try the same on the other side. Find your leg in any position that um, it feels comfortable to be in. Take a few breaths. before you try to release. Feel the navel pulling into the spine, the back of the ribs connecting to the ground. Then letting the hands go and see if the leg can stay in the same position. Bring the heels onto the ground and just windshield wipe the legs from right to left. And then hold behind your legs to swing yourself up into a seat. I want to give you one more exercise as more like a strength building exercise. I call it conditioning at the end of the practice. I'll give you two options and you can choose depending on how tired you are right now. So the first one would be you're just standing, bringing your leg on a height that feels good, reaching the arms up and leaning towards the wall, not going round, but thinking of a nice long body and the leg going back into the hip, trying to stay for 3 to 5 breaths and then do the same on the other side. If you want to repeat what we've done before without letting go of the leg from the wall to just build the strength in the shoulders. You find the same setup in your tabletop. You'll climb up, you bring your one foot on the height of the hip or slightly higher. You're trying to look in between your hands and just staying for 1, 3, 5 breaths. Bring it down. Maybe take a breath before you do the other side. Or if you have the stamina to do both legs at the same repetition, go ahead and do so. So choose what feels good today. I'm not a big fan of like pushing yourself so much that you feel pain after this class. So if you already feel your wrist, maybe take the easier version. If you feel good to do one more handstand, go ahead and do so. Beautiful alignment. Really nice work. Nice. Check in with your breath. Are you able to breathe and wherever you are at? Very nice. Just takes time to build the strength in the wrist, the shoulders, the trust in your mind. It's all part of it. Okay, let's find a squat. Take our forearms from the back between the thigh and the calf and just walk and massage on your forearms a bit. As you get the hands a little closer between the thigh and the calf, I feel my hands are automatically making a fist, and you can just open and close the hands a few times to flush your wrist with some blood. And then release, give yourself a forward fold, interlace the hands behind the back. Stretch out the front, just hang for a moment. Nice. Roll all the way back into a seated position, preferably on your heels. Now, depending on the length of your arm, for me, it's good enough if I put my hand between my butt and my heel. Some people have longer arms, they need to go underneath the shin, but we'll put the hand there and we'll just move the head the other way. Create a nice long stretch from the ear, through the traps, all the way to the wrist. And you decide how much you want to pull. And release the side. Same on the other side. Pin your hand, move the ear to the opposite shoulder very gently. And interlace hands behind the head. Just with your big thumb, give a few circles in the back of your neck. Release any tension there. We'll place the fingers facing towards our knees and the tabletop. And again, maybe that's already enough. If you want more, you can lean back, give a nice stretch into your forearms. Shake your wrists and your arms out. And thank you all for joining today and getting into the details of your handstand foundation. And yeah, I hope to see you soon.